Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken, and today's class on modern CSS layout, Flexboard, and Grid. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, thank you very much for that. So, we're going to go with what layouts are. Layouts are visualized structures in your website. You can see examples of layouts on your supermarkets, your stores, the way that each individual arranges things. They can either arrange it by column or by row. So, for example, if you go to a supermarket, you see the way that they arrange their stores row by row. Your provision, your baby materials, your kitchen utensils, and the rest. They are all being arranged all so that it will be easy for you to access it while maintaining neatness in the environment. So, as a web developer, you have to ensure that your screen is easy to read, easy to access. It is not jam packed so that your users won't have an information overflow in the sense that they see too many things at once and they don't know how to navigate. Yeah. In CSS, we have grid display, we have flexbox display, we have block display, we have inline display. So now our display block, it's the normal thing for it's actually automatic because it is being seen from your HTML. Your HTML elements are either block elements or inline elements. So block elements already has a native CSS display property of block. You don't have to specify it in on your web browser. It comes with it. It's an inherited property. Same with your inline elements. They are all inherited properties. Situation that you have a block element, but you don't want it to display its inherent property. You can either decide to make it inline, or you can decide to use the flex property, the grid property. Okay. So let me use whiteboard to try and demonstrate the difference or how you get to see this on different views. Let's say, for example, you're working with a laptop. I don't know if you guys can see my screen of the whiteboard. Yes, I am sharing my screen presently. Just let me know when you get to see my screen. Okay. Good. So, firstly, most of your websites are to be done through your. If you get to go live, you see that you are mostly giving a which is based at 1440px. So now you have your laptop screen as big as it is. Remember, we have inline elements and block elements as shown in the previous image. So block elements take the full width of your screen. So for any block element you have, it comes underneath the other. It doesn't share. It takes the full width. It's only inline elements that take width alongside each other until the screen is full. Inline elements come in sections like this, side by side. So inline HTML elements already have an inherent display of inline, same with your block HTML. So it appears like this. In a situation where you want to flex, and let's explain now. What do you do for flexing? So flexing, you use it when you want to align your items in a row or column. Flexbox, or I'll just say flexing, only allows you to align items in one particular direction. You can either align it horizontally or vertically. You can't do both at the same time. Times you can use Flexbox can be when you want to do your nav bars, when you want to do a particular just in a row or in a column, or when you want to see your famous justify content center, align item center. You get. And also when you want to align your buttons or flex your buttons. That's the ways you can use Flexbox. So in a situation where you have these block elements, let me use these two block elements on top already. So now these two block elements side by side like this inline element, you can either use your display property of inline on the parent container. Remember, you have your parent containers and your child containers. Your children inherit from the parents like a generational tree. So the parent container of inline or a display of flex, because originally these two are block HTML elements and they have an inherent property block, which you do not have to write. It's inherent to it. It inherited it from the parents. And when you get to do your display flex, these two block elements tend to go inline, go side by side, sharing equal space within the particular screen. So if you have multiple block elements and you do a display flex, all within the same allocated screen size, then you can between them by using gap. You can do it on gap 20px, 10px, any size of your choice. You can use your justify content space between to put space in between multiple contents that are aligned horizontally. You can use space around, you can use space even. You get to experiment on your own. But the real thing behind flexing is to arrange your elements either vertically or horizontally. It doesn't do both. The property that does both of them once is your display grid, but we are not yet getting there. We'll talk about Flexbox first. So now Flexbox works on parents. I will show you an example of how Flexbox works. Let me take you to my IDE. So let's work with this HTML and CSS. You can get to go through it and get to understand how it's written before I move to the CSS. So here, this link is to connect your style sheet. Now I'm using an ID. You can decide to use a class if you want. I'm using an ID. And this is the style section. I'll show you how this looks on live screen, and then you get to see it for yourself. Mm, Yeah. So from let's get the lesson text. I believe you can see it. Now, presently, this is what it looks like. Reason why there is white spaces is because in the CSS section, this ID 4th to 9th, there is nothing for it. You only see the three here because I've given them colors and properties on the CSS file. This remaining 6 occupy space but can't be seen because of lack of property. Excuse me. Now, let me give you an example. These three. The body that contains this has an ID of container. I come over here. I give it. Like I told you, this it automatically moves everything that was stacked vertically, horizontally, and occupies this, makes them share equal width. Now, this one here looks slightly to the right, if you notice. Why? Because there's a margin left here. Let me comment that out. You see, what else is occupying space? The borders, the width, and everything. Remember, there's excess space by the right. Why? Because back here, you have your ID any property. So they occupy that because they are here. Now let me give them a property so you get to see them. You see, that's what they are. But now these 6, you wouldn't know inside here because they look like one single item. That's because there is no border or margin or padding. Remember your box model. Come over here. We decide to give it a border. Oh, great. Now you can space it. This is box 1, box 2, box 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See what display flex did. Everything that was stacked. Now let me comment out this display flex so you see how it looks like normally. Remember what I told you that originally you have your block elements and your inline elements. Your divs are block elements. So block elements, block elements, block elements, they are all stacked on top of each other vertically. What does display flex do? Display flex moves everything from a vertical direction to a horizontal direction. And you get it here. I believe you guys are following up with me. Are you guys following up with my explanations? Okay. So now, when we get to an important thing as a developer, when you're dealing on styles and CSS to get to see what you are doing, is your developer you get to inspect whatever you're doing. Now, it's on the used up. No one can get to see what is inside there. Remember, layout sickness, getting to make sure that no matter the screen size that your user is using, they get to see and understand whatever they're interacting with. Remember, you are dealing with websites, the user experience, and also the user interface. When you get to go for smaller screens and you're like, oh, all well, when you get to attach your media after your display flex, you're going to do flex direction. What does flex direction? Flex direction gives the direction of where your display flex is meant to. Boom, it has gone back to this way. Now you see it as it is. It's all been aligned. Now a user can get to see it for what it is. You can then apply content, center, and your align items. Everything is now centralized. You use this basic as well. You want to centralize your button or text or your okay. I haven't touched off in this. No. So this is how display flex works. You see that you could only work either excuse me, either horizontally or vertically. That's how your flexbox works. It only works in one direction. It can't work in both directions. So it's either you're flexing it horizontally or you're flexing it vertically by using the column property when working on your flex direction. Things to remember: CSS display properties are already inherited from your parents. Block HTML elements have an inherent property of block display. Inline HTML elements have an of inline display. Things to note: flex automatically gives you a flex direction of row automatically. If you have row on your PC screen and you know that when you use a getter screen, you use your media query to articulate it and tell this browser, okay, smaller screen, please display flex. Give me a flex direction of column. It brings us to be able to interact with whatever they are using. I hope you all got that noted down. So you can also use justify content between and space evenly. You understand? Gives equal space around things. I remember I told you gap is a space in between each element used. Let me give it 40px. So you get to see you have a gap of 40px, 40px. It works on everything because you are working on the container and the container carries everything here. Now let me give you guys, or let me share I learned through experience. Whenever you are working on anything CSS, whether positioning, whether display, whether selecting, or whether getting to know, this thing I'm working on, is it working properly? You want to be sure that you are targeting. You get to just do a simple thing of border 1px solid. You give it a color. Let's go with get. Once you do this, your border tends to have a particular your what do I call it? You have a border now, and you get to see everything you're working on. So now, if you look close, let me shift this. You see this black line. That is what I just applied the container, and you're sure that's you. Now let me apply. Let me give you a border on just this, so you see that it also works everywhere. Exit green. The reason why I solid is because it gives it a line. You can make it dashed, you can make it dotted, or your choice. But I like using solid on that. Let's remove this so you get to see it clearly. Now you can see the solid border around it. So make sure that you're targeting the right element for all your designs. There is that. So I believe you all have gotten to see how display flex works when you're flexing things in one direction. I would have loved to give some tasks and work around it and get to be sure that you understood it during display flex. But I pretty much believe you guys will go through it. So on to the next one we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about grid. Yes. When you hear grid, what comes to your mind? It might be electrical grid, it might be any kind of grid. Grid are layers of items. I believe for those movie inclined, you might have watched um something of that. I believe from exactly looking at the image, you see grid, rows and columns. That's the difference between Flexbox and Grid. Flexbox only does things in one direction. Grid, you can have both rows and columns. You can do both at the same time and not only sticking to a single one like Flexbox. That's the only limitation. One of the major limitations you have. Flexbox only flex things unidirectional, which means it's either horizontal or vertical. But with Grid, you can work on both at the same time. So places that you can use grid. Let me think. Let me give you an example of grid or a place where grid is. If you open your phone and you go to your gallery, you see how your pictures are arranged. That is a grid format. The way your pictures are arranged, you see them line by line by line, and you can see them line by line. Where it is equal that if you just multiply this by this, you get the total grid number. That is an example of grid. It's used in gallery, it's used in dashboards. You can use it in full website structure and also in page layout. So remember, Flexbox, one direction, grid, both direction. Yes. So let's dive into it. I'm coming over here. Oh, it's everything's back to basics. Now we're going to use display grid. Now you might be wondering, you have done display grid, nothing is happening. Display grid is not like display flex, where flex automatically flexes your content in the horizontal manner. Grid doesn't do anything yet because they have not given it any specifications. You have to tell it grid works on both rows and columns. So you have to tell it this amount of columns, oh, I want this amount of rows. You get let's give it a grid and you get to see how it looks like. Um, sorry, grid templates, NFR, 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 and grid template shows make it automatic so that arrangements automatic for the rows. Then columns, it's oh, what does one FR mean? FR means fraction of available space. Let's see, you have this full available space. And remember, columns are like this. Your columns are your vertical arrangements. Your rows are your horizontal arrangements. So you tell it you need available space. It uses the whole screen space. It splits the whole screen into two. Three fractions of available space. It splits it into three. That's where you get the one FR, one FR, one FR. Means you should split your screen into three equal parts and allocate each column a part. For your row, it's automatic. You see, this is it. This is the difference between your Flexbox and your grid. You can't get to do this with Flexbox. You get. So I don't know if put this out here, but there's this you can get to do with this small sheet for grid where it's responsive layout in the sense that you give it a minimum size and the max size of one fraction in which that it uses the available space of your screen to know grid is best suited for if I remember correctly, it should be display not display grid template columns. Give it an auto fit, meaning that it should automatically fit into the screen. And you have to set your minimum screen size and your maximum screen size. So screen size should be 200 pixel, and then your maximum screen size should be one fraction of available screen because I mean you can't go than one fraction because one screen, right? Let's get to inspect. And you see, yeah. So the whole on it, you see grid. The grid lines that are color. You have a 4x3 grid line. So it makes use of any available space, pushing it down to how it's meant to be. Now, another thing that is limiting this work, if you guys are watching out well, you will see that this already had a fixed height. And I don't know if you guys saw that. I wanted to know how observant you guys were. So removing it, everything starts. You get to see that the contents are hidden inside here. When you are flexing, you can avoid this by using flex wrap. Flex wrap fits everything in the same screen, but grid doesn't. But now the thing about this is, as a developer, you're not meant to have an undefined width or height. So you can have it by star. Star works on everything in your whole. I'm going to use body because what you're working on is inside the body elements. Selector. I'm going to give it a width sense and the height of. Guess for me which height you think I would give it. You guys are probably think 100%, but 100% is not the thing for your height. You understand? Because depending on the dimension of whatever you're viewing, can change. So I'm going to use view height. View height means what is being viewed by the screen. Use 100% of it. So you get your 100 VH. Yeah, and boom, and you see the effects of this last line of code right down here on this. On small device, it pushed everything. What did it do? It made it sure that it automatically fits in the whole screen. It made it minimum of 200 px. So if you keep on increasing screen changes to accommodate, make sure that's what happens when you use the last line. To memorize this last line of code too, because it kind of scrambles the brain when you want to like get to use this, but just get to understand Flexbox, get to understand when to use them and where to use them. Then another thing you can do with grid is let's see, assigning a particular content to fit a specific amount of columns or row. You guys understand it? And yeah, like, oh, you divided it into a 4x4 grid, then they don't want it to be small inside this grid. You want it to occupy 2 grids. No problem. What do you do? Let me give you an example. Let's see 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's use the 5th one. And what do we do with it? We give it a grid column. I used to. Now you see the 5th item have occupied 2 columns worth of space because you gave it 2. If you move it to 3, it occupies 3 columns worth of space. You can see it. That is all for grid. If you guys understood what grid is, the difference between both of them, the inherent displays you have, which are your blocks and your inlines, the automatic display, how to use your flex, how to direct it, when to use your grid, when to use your grid. So let's just do a small as a brush up of everything that was taught. So remember, if you are using navbar, use Flexbox because your navbar can either be at the top, at the bottom, at the left, or at the side. You have your side navs, your top navs, your footer navs. So you use your Flexbox for your navs. When you want to align your buttons, use your Flexbox. Your buttons are block elements. So use your Flexbox, and then you can now successfully use align items center to centralize it. So you can use align items right, align items center, use your margin left, padding left, border left. So just push it and play around with the edge of where you want it to be. Do not forget to use your gaps. Gaps by allocating the amount of space you want each content to occupy within the given width. So when you want to arrange your cards, I don't know if you know what I mean by cards. Let's say, for example, when you have go to Instagram, you have all this when someone posts 7 pictures at once, you keep on swiping left to see all 7. That is done with display flex. So that card section arrow you do with display flex. So this is occupying. Let me move it to get to see it. Let's put it in line. Doesn't change anything. So you see here, you see it here. So for your card section, you can use your display flex. Just to make sure that it's not stacked vertically, it's stacked horizontally, but you want to just keep on viewing it. More of like a carousel. Yes. So another place you can use flex, I believe I mentioned, getting onto grid for full page layouts. Grid because it's more okay. I believe designers would, I mean, when they get to design screens, they separate their screens into grids and make sure things align. Because if it doesn't align, as a user, you get thrown off by on the screen. Like you don't feel content with what you see or have. So remember your full page layout. work with Grid. If you're working for like gallery, work with Grid. If you're doing dashboard, and these are not a must or structured like that, you can be flexible in whatever you do. You can make a mixture of Flexbox, a mixture of Grid. Your whole website can use both. It mustn't stick to one. Yeah. Beginner friendly. Flexbox is more beginner friendly than Grid. You understand? For the full use Grid. So I think that is it for everything. If there's any question you have, I'm free to take them, turn them, I'm free to answer them. And let's say give a little bit of tax for your Flexbox and your Grid to see understanding of it. So Flexbox mini tax. Let me uh, which one did I even give that? That's the fifth one, right? Fifth. Let me write out. Let me write out the task I want. So Flex. I want you to build this. Let me just say a nav bar. Just make it simple. That would be a little bit hard, but it's still a challenge. You have to put in a row, challenge yourself. And last but not the least, you can just center a box, login box or anything. So this is the task I would like you to do, Flexbox. Now, I would want to see what you can do after the class. So let's I give you guys, let's go a little bit lesser. Let's go with 6. So 6 card gallery setting. And to say 6 card gallery setting. Yeah. I just want to see what will I do a grid. Okay, let's just leave it at gallery setting. If you want to surprise me, we can make it auto fit. If you want to surprise me. So remember, go through everything. Make sure you understand the basics. Yeah. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Like and share the live session. Make sure to bring your friends. Make sure to get them to come and learn web development for free. You can search and follow us on LinkedIn and IG by searching Soft Zenith. SoftZenith. So don't forget to like and click that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials. And we are always ready for all your queries and all your questions. We are ready to answer, we are ready to explain and give you a guiding hand towards your journey to become a web developer. Thank you very much for joining me on this live session. Once again, my name is It was good to have this session with you.